with the recording. Okay, so what we are going to do now is we are going to talk about the chapter called as reproduction. Let me just share my screen and we are good to go. As soon as my screen becomes visible to you, I will request you to either put your thumbs up so that I know about it, or just say it out that, yeah, we are able to see your screen, whatever works. Okay, so here we go, and we have my screen here. I can see my screen. If you can see my screen, just show me a thumbs up. All right, okay, I can see. Cool. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about reproduction. Now, what is reproduction? Very important question. Okay, so reproduction, the word itself has all that you need to know. To produce or to carry out the process of production means to make something. Okay, when I say production, so let's say this particular toy was produced in a company, and what they do is they sell this toy all over the world. Okay, production, to make something. If I said, I don't say that right now, okay, but if I said that this particular turtle was going to make babies, this is already existing turtle. Okay, he's already here. And if he was or she was to go ahead and somehow make another turtle, obviously this is not a turtle, but if there was another turtle made which kind of had the similar properties as that of the original turtle, we would say we remade that thing, we reproduced that thing. So reproduction is making something from the pre-existing structure. Okay, that is literally what reproduction means. So there was probably a time when there was one singular cell, and maybe this cell was just, looking here and there, and he was like, I seem to be completely alone. And so what this cell did is it went on and made another copy of itself. And therefore, for the first time, what we had on our hand were two identical cells. This is what the process of reproduction means. When you have one parent that goes on and makes a child. Okay. Now remember, at this point, I said a parent. I did not say a pair of parent. Okay. I said there is one parent that is going and making a baby. Okay, this kind of reproduction, when it takes place, where you have just one parent, maybe a mama or a dada, who go on and make one baby or maybe multiple babies. Okay, such a process is called as asexual reproduction, because there was only one particular parent involved. There was no fertilization of the egg, there was no mixing of the gametes, there was no interaction of a male and a female to make a baby. When such processes take place, when there is a parent, that kind of reproduction is called as asexual reproduction, not involving two sexes or two different parents, is called as an asexual reproduction. And there are multiple ways in which asexual reproduction can take place, and you'll be surprised as to how many organisms actually choose to do this. Okay, so I'm going to take you through each kind of reproduction one by one. What kind of reproduction are we still talking about? We are still talking about the asexual mode of reproduction, right? So here I go. I'm going to give you the first case. Okay, now let's say I have this very cute tiny little plant over here with me. Okay, let's put this here. Okay, really cute tiny little plant, just living, enjoying its life, not having any kind of bother with the world. Okay, and then one fine day this plant starts to feel, really, really sad. Why? You ask, because it's all alone. It was enjoying and everything, but this guy was completely alone. Okay, so what he decided to do was he's like, what I can do is I can probably make another plant for me so that I could probably hang out with that plant. And that is exactly what this plant goes on and does. Okay, so what it does is it starts to grow this tiny little bud on him, and over a period of time, this bud goes on becoming larger and larger and larger like this, and then it just simply breaks off this way. Okay, and once this takes place, once this bud sort of breaks off, okay, what you're going to be able to see is this plant is back to being all happy again, because now there is another friend growing here, and then this guy is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then he's going to do the same. Okay, this kind of reproduction where one singular parent goes on and makes a new baby, okay, like this, which is grown on the body of the parent in the form of a bud, is called as, you got it, budding. Okay, so the kind of reproduction in plants or in organisms where a small bud grows on top of a parent and then it detaches itself, falls onto the ground, or separates from the parent and grows as a separate individual is called as budding. Did you follow with that, or should we go over this particular point again? Did you understand what I just spoke about budding? It's a point where you
Yes, ma'am.
Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am, it's clear.
Yes. Now let's go to the next part. Yes, darling, tell me.
Ma'am, I was asking that are there any conditions for the bud to grow on the body?
Yes, there is. There is one.
Like, does it naturally grow or are there any conditions for it to grow?
No, no, no. It naturally goes. The only thing is that the plant or the organism on which it has to grow should be an adult. Okay, so it should be an adult plant, like a grown plant, for it to make a new bud. And this guy has to be, this is like really small right now, tiny, so he will not be able to grow it all by himself. He'll have to grow to a particular stage or a size, and then he will start reproducing. Okay, so the
So,
yes.
so when an adult, feels like to grow buds upon himself, then only it will grow.
Yes,
Like it
and
is
then
like
there
so.
could be multiple buds also at a point of time, and all these buds could grow at different points. So maybe like one bud over here is really, really tiny, but the other one is like really huge. Okay, so the buds can grow at different stages, and they could also fall off the parent at different times. Okay, so it's just like really haphazard like that. But the only straight condition that it has to meet is that this particular organism has to be an adult. Okay, just like human beings also, you have to reach a particular stage to start making babies. Plants will also have that particular condition. Okay, so this is where your plant has just gone ahead and made a buddy for himself, so budding. Okay, now sometimes this is not as easy as it sounds over here. Okay, what we are going to do is we're going to take another square and another set of these little guys here. Okay, so now let's say I have something like this. Okay, this is a plant which is called as hydra. Okay, so I'm just gonna put this over here. I have hydra. Okay, now what this hydra is gonna do is it has grown to a particular height and to a particular length. Okay, and then it's just simply going to be like, oh my god, this extension of my hand or my leg is too huge and I just absolutely don't like it. So it's just going to take it and break it and be like, be gone, I don't need you no more. Again, this part is also like a little too grown, and I absolutely do not like it. So it's going to fall out, and it is going to grow into a completely new individual. Now, I know that sounds a little harsh, but it happens. Okay, it is just simply like you have a lot of hair on your head, and you're like, it's probably time to get it trimmed. And so you go and you cut it into small pieces, and obviously your hair does not grow, the cut part does not grow into more hair, otherwise that would be really creepy. Okay, but here the part that is done for, okay, or the part that has been cut away also grows into new individual like this, and it continues to have a very good existence further. Okay, but now because a small piece or a small fragment of this particular plant was cut off, and then it started to grow into a new individual, this kind of reproduction is called as fragmentation. What does
And
it?
the same thing happens in a starfish.
Yes, in a starfish. Not all the starfishes, but some starfishes. Okay. And if we are going to look at your starfish here, there is also a condition that your starfish has to meet, which is the cut part. Okay, so let's say I have a starfish here. So out of the part that is gone, okay, it should have at least 40% of the original starfish for it to grow into something like this. Okay, so it needs to have the original part of the starfish for it to regenerate. So the kind of reproduction, okay, not really reproduction all the time. Sometimes it's not reproduction, it's just like you're regrowing the lost part. Okay, but when this happens, this kind of reproduction is not put in under fragmentation, we put this under regeneration. Okay, now you guys might probably cringe on this idea. Okay, but when you look at a lizard, now you might ask me, why are we looking at a lizard? Because why not look at a lizard? Okay, so let's say you're looking at a lizard and lizard gets scared of you, like, oh man, this creepy guy is just looking at me, or this creepy girl is just looking at me. So the lizard gets scared of you, and what it's gonna do is it's gonna drop its tail. Okay, it's just gonna drop its tail. And if you're weird like me, you probably might have noticed, okay, other people would just run away, but some people might have noticed that this lizard tail just flicks around for some time, and then few days later you're going to see the same lizard. But now the thing with that poor lizard is, which got scared of you apparently for no reason, okay, so it looks something like this now. Have you seen this, or am I the only weird person here?
No, Mama, I have
Yes,
seen
ma'am.
it.
Seen
I've
this?
seen
Mama,
this.
even I've seen.
Yeah, so it does that. So this poor lizard had a very nice tail like this, and it could just, flick it around, and then it just saw you looking at it and it broke its tail. And then over a period of time, this lizard is going to regrow that tail. This kind of process where an organism regrows the lost part is called as regeneration. If the new part is going to grow into a new organism, like for example, agar ye part was then growing into a new lizard, okay, that would be really bad. Like, imagine how many lizards you would have. Already there are a lot many lizards in the world, but then you would have even more lizards. Okay, if the lizard started to reproduce by cutting off its tail, okay, that if it happened, it would be a form of reproduction. But if it doesn't happen, if the lost part is just brought back and the organism survives and continues to live, that kind of process is called as regeneration. Almost 90% of the time, starfish loses a part of the body and regrows that part of the body, and whatever part is lost forever. Therefore, that cannot always be considered as a form of reproduction, although sometimes if more than 40% of the part of the original starfish is retained, it could grow into a new starfish. In that way, you would have two starfishes. Okay, so that could be a form of reproduction. I will tell you, there is one particular microorganism, very tiny microorganism. It is called as planaria. Okay, you could look into this particular organism later on Google. Okay, and this planaria is like really crazy guy. Okay, so let's say this is how my planaria looks at this point. Okay, and don't ask me who has done this, because I personally know this person who's working on this. And why are they doing it? They like to do that. Okay, so what this person is doing is, they take this planaria, they're really tiny, very tiny. Okay, and what they do is they cut the planaria like this and they separate it out. And then after some time, what they observe is that there are two new planarias. Okay, they look like this. And then this person was like, oh, that is interesting. I did not expect that to happen. I thought if I cut this planaria into two halves, it's probably going to die. Then they went over. Okay, I think my screen is frozen for some reason. So I'm just going to give it a minute to come back, and then you would be able to see it. Okay. Then what they did is, let's say if this is how the planaria looks at this point. Okay, what they did is they cut the planaria into half like this. Okay, and then this part of the planaria grew into a new planaria, and this one also grew as the individual. They were like, that is weird, let's try cutting it horizontally now. Okay, and that is also what they did, and the new planaria grew. They cut off smaller pieces of planaria and still it grew. And therefore, in this particular condition for your planarias, regeneration is a way for reproduction. Okay, so that also happens. Now let's take this part, and I'm gonna just copy it and put it in a different place so that I have more place to work on. And I'm gonna put it here. Okay, just give me 1 second. I'm just gonna stop my sharing and restart it so that it is visible to you. Is it visible to you now?
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes,
Okay. So now let's go over the next way in which reproduction can take place without involving a new parent. Okay. So now we have cut off the plant part. Okay. And it kind of just grew that bud, and the bud just sort of fell down, and then that bud started to grow into a new organism. We saw that we have this particular organism, okay, or a plant. It happens in all the structures. Okay, and then what it is doing is, it kind of grew and then it fragmented itself and it made a new organism. Okay, then let's look at another example. You might have seen this example more commonly. So here I have a amoeba with me. Okay, this amoeba was leading his life all nice and cozy, and then it realizes, oh my god, I'm all alone, I have no person to call my own. Those are also song lyrics. Okay, so what this particular guy does is, he says, what I could do is, I could probably grow to become really large, and then I'll just split into two, and that way I will have a friend with me. So this is exactly what this guy does. Okay, it grows and grows and grows, and then whoosh, just breaks and makes two amoebas. And this kind of division, where a body of an organism sort of splits into two, okay, and then there are two organisms, is called
Binary fission.
binary fission. Yes, fission is break. Okay, so you take a bomb and you throw it, that's fission. So binary fission. And sometimes doing this is not enough. Okay, your amoeba is like, why be an underachiever like this? Why not be an overachiever? So what this amoeba does, it goes swoosh like this and makes more than two parts of itself. Okay, obviously all those parts are not going to be equal, but nevertheless there are parts made, and this kind of fission is not called as binary fission, but it is called as multiple fission. Okay, because, well, it made multiple parts of itself, so multiple fission. sometimes you might feel that the people who study biology are not really good at naming things, because it's like bud banta hai to budding, fragment banta hai to fragmentation, binary fission क्योंकि दो बनते हैं, multiple बनते हैं तो multiple, and then you're gonna see that, oh my god, biologists are so good at naming, because what the name stands for and what happens are completely different things. Okay, so like don't judge biologists just by these some small names that are given. Okay, so you're gonna have this way in which your organisms are probably dividing and making more parts. There is another way in which this kind of reproduction could take place, okay, which is I have this particular, okay, so I'm just going to take this here. Before I say, is there any other way of asexual reproduction that you guys maybe know of? Anything else that you guys know of? Yes, it's okay.
Hydra.
Hydra, we did it, but can you tell us again? Anything else? Asexual reproduction? Any kind of asexual reproduction that you guys know of? Doesn't have to be in animals, it can be in plants, it can be in...
Ma'am, it can be vegetative propagation.
Yes, there can be vegetative propagation. Do you guys know roses? Have you seen a rose? You guys probably
Yes,
have,
ma'am.
right? You guys have seen a rose. And
Even bryophyllums work like that, right?
yes, bryophyllums
Yes,
are going to do this thing. Vegetative propagation can also be a thing. Okay, so here I have a rose and I say, oh my god, what a pretty rose, I want to plant this rose as well, give me the seeds of rose. Won't you think I'm crazy? Because have you ever seen seeds of rose? Do you just see someone like 10 rupees ke rose ke 10 seeds le lo, or like, you know, you go to a nursery and they're like, oh, we are all out of the rose plants, would you rather buy seeds from us? No, right? That doesn't happen, because rose cannot be grown out of a seed. Okay, so what you have to do with a rose is you're supposed to take the stem of the rose and you're supposed to plant it. And once you do this, your rose is going to grow tiny, tiny leaves. And then after a while, it is going to fully bloom and it is going to have roses growing all over it. This kind of reproduction, did you take rose mummy and rose daddy and then make a baby rose? No, you just took a rose, you cut off a stem and you put it in the soil, and there you go, voila, you made a rose. Okay, this kind of reproduction is called as vegetative propagation. So I just put it here, vegetative propagation. You can do this with so many different kinds of plants. Take a potato, put it in the soil. Potatoes. Okay, take a ginger. Don't do it if you have a farmland. Don't just randomly take a ginger and put it in your land, because ginger is really, really wild. Okay, and once you plant ginger, you're probably always gonna have ginger. Same goes with turmeric. You put turmeric once in your land, and you're gonna have turmeric all along. Okay, so don't just randomly go and put anything if you have a farm. Ask the farmer or your grandparents or your parents before you sow things like that. Okay, tubers cannot be just directly sown. You have to remove them properly if you want to grow something else. Okay, so that kind of reproduction is called as vegetative propagation. You can do vegetative propagation with almost all the plants. Okay, there is a requisite for that, which is you need 2 varieties of things with you to make it successful. Okay, so let's say I was walking on the road and I noticed that there was this one tree that was probably cut off. Okay, but its roots were kept intact. So what I'm going to do is, okay, I am going to take a small section out of this like this, so that I can make a wedge on it. Okay, like a potato wedge that you get in your McDonald's. Okay, so I cut off a wedge like this, and then I'm going to find another plant somewhere far away, Okay, so let's say there's another plant like this. Oops, not with brown things. Okay, so there's another plant growing here somewhere, and it has a really strong branch here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to cut off that branch this way. Okay, and I'm going to bring it, and I am going to place that branch on this part here so that it exactly matches up like this. Okay, now the lower part of the stem, which is from a different plant, is called as a stalk. Okay, and the one that you brought from a different plant is called as a scion. Okay, so you have something called as a stalk and you have something called as a scion. Once you bring these guys together, you want to tie them up very nicely so that the freshly cut parts align with each other. Okay, so like I say, and the other part simply placed on top of that. Once you do that, because they are nicely aligned with each other, the vascular bundles will grow toward each other. They'll make the connection, and then your food will start to flow, your water will start to flow, and therefore you will have new growth taking place. And in this way, what you have made is a hybrid. Okay, but this is nothing but a type of vegetative propagation in which what you have done is you have made one plant grow on top of the other plant. Okay, technically, yes, two individuals together, but are they making a new plant? No, it's just the same plant is growing on top of other. Okay, so this is also a way in which you could have reproduction taking place without actually having any kind of fertilization. You could do this with roses, and you could take a red rose and you could take a white rose and make pink rose. Or you could take a red rose and you could take another lighter red rose, okay, and you could probably make an orange color out of it. There are so many multiple different ways in which you can grow different kinds of roses. So there's pink,
And
there's
this is called
white.
stem grafting, right?
Yes, this is called as grafting. When you do it on a small piece of stem and then you plant the stem to grow a new plant, it is not called as making a new plant, but this process entirely is called as grafting. Okay. I think they wanted to say growth crafting, like crafting growth, but they were like, that seems too long, so they started calling it grafting. Okay, so this is another way in which you could probably make
Ma'am,
more and more organisms. Yes, darling, tell me.
ma'am, is external fertilization asexual reproduction?
No, it is not asexual reproduction because technically there were two parents involved. So if you know a test tube baby, don't tell them that they're born out of asexual reproduction. That's mean and wrong because technically there was still an egg and a sperm that fertilized each other to make a baby. So two gametes were involved. So that is not asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction by no means that there was no copulation or sex that took place. It is something where two gametes did not meet with each other. Okay, you can have babies even without having sex, and that is still a sexual reproduction. Okay, so this is something that we learn about your asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is usually carried out by your lower organisms for the reason that it requires less resources and is more efficient, and it gives rise to more viable offsprings which can then further go and make newer offsprings. So it makes sense for the animals or lower animals to do that, and because they have a lot of praise also. Okay, like not praise, they have a lot of predators. Okay, it becomes very important for them to have a way of reproducing where even if they're alone, they can still grow their own clan. Okay, if you play that game which was Clash of Clans, okay, you would see that you would have to acquire resources and then your clan would go on increasing. Similar concept just for reproduction. Okay, so that is what happens over here. Is there any other way of reproduction that maybe you guys are aware of? Anything that you know that happens? Anything at all? I'm just gonna drink some water. Anything at all? No. So these are the only types of asexual reproductions that you guys are aware of, or is there anything else that maybe you guys know and you guys are not telling me? If there is any other way of reproduction in the asexual manner that you are aware of, please let me know and we can discuss about that a little bit more. Sorry?
Formation.
Spore formation. Yes, exactly. So maybe I am a plant here. Okay. Give me 1 second. I have a plant this way. And
Mom,
what?
parenthenogenesis.
Okay, yes. We'll go over that as well. Okay, so let's say I'm a plant over here and I am like, oh my God, I do not want to be alone. I want to make more plants like me because I'm like really pretty. Okay, so what this plant is gonna do is it's gonna make the spores, and then these spores are gonna go to other places and they're gonna land on the ground, and then out of those spores, new individuals are going to grow. So this kind of reproduction, again, if the spores need to land on another plant for them to be fertilized, not sexual, not asexual reproduction. If the spores are going to be viable all by themselves and then going to grow, that kind of reproduction is going to be called as asexual reproduction by spore formation. Now you might ask, where in the world are we going to see this? You see this on your bread. Okay, like let's say you bought a pack of bread. Okay, and there was this one piece of bread. For some reason you were really angry with that piece of bread and you did not eat it. You can't be angry at bread, but let's say you were, okay, and you did not eat this bread, you just kept it somewhere. Over a period of time, you're going to see these little tiny blob heads that are going to grow. Okay, and what these blob heads are nothing but the spores of the fungi that was probably there on your bread, and now it has started to grow, and it grew by formation of spores. What is it doing? It has a spore bulb like this. Okay, here the spores are going to grow this way. Give me 1 second. I forget that I have an easier way of doing this. Okay, so they're just gonna grow here, and then one fine day this is going to burst open and all the spores are going to be dispersed out, like, and then these spores are going to land on the bread and they're going to make more of these blobby things. Okay, this is called as reproduction by spore formation. Another way in which you could have asexual reproduction take place is, what was it, sir? What was the other mode of reproduction that you said?
Parenthemogenesis.
Okay, can you try and say that one more time? I think you're looking at the word correctly, but you're not pronouncing it right. Could you try the pronunciation one more time and then I'll tell you the exact word? Read the word again.
Parenthemogenesis.
It is parthenogenesis. Okay.
Yes, mom, it's partheno. Sorry.
Parthenogenesis. Okay. Now let's say I am a girl. Okay. And now I am like just sitting over here and I'm like, wouldn't it be so good if I just had a baby over here? But then the problem is I would have to make the baby all by myself, and that would be a little tedious to do. But if I was something smaller like a honeybee, okay, honeybees can just sit around their honeycomb and be like, I think it's time that I need more honeybees. And so what they do is, without involving the drones or the male honeybees, they just lay eggs. All right? No fertilization required. They just lay eggs. And then out of those eggs which are unfertilized, still baby bees come out, and all of them are going to be females. And then if the queen bee feels, you know what, I have ample number of girls, maybe I need boys, so she could lay fertilized eggs, and out of the fertilized eggs come out the male bees. Okay, but when a female is ready or able to reproduce all by herself and make new daughters, okay, parthenogenesis will always give rise to female offsprings. Note it down very, very clearly in wherever you're writing this down. Okay, parthenogenesis will give rise to more females only. In fact, if you guys are interested and you want to look at it, there is a movie called as No Men Beyond. Okay, No Men Beyond. I guess that's it. No Men. And this is a movie which, if you're a guy, could be a little scary for you. It's not a horror movie, but it could be horrific for you. Okay, this is where all the women take over the world and men are no longer required and men are treated like slaves and not an important part of the society. And then there are some males who are just discarded from the society. They're put in like small homes and people are like, who needs men anyway? So it's a movie where you can see that parthenogenesis, yeah, no men beyond this point. Thank you, Pratik. That's the movie. Okay, and it is a bit crazy movie, but it could happen. Okay, human females can make babies by themselves. We can make babies. All that you would need is another nucleus. So if I find a way of doing all of this, okay, actually there is a way you can do this. So you just need one ovum and you need another ovum, and we actually did this not with humans, but we did this with a sheep, and the baby that was born out of this process was called Dolly. Okay, like I don't know how many of you are aware, not Dolly Singh. Don't be rude. That's an entire different individual. But there was a sheep by the name of
Ma'am, I
Dolly.
think it was given in our previous
Ma'am,
year
this was
textbook.
yes,
Yes,
ma'am, in
ma'am.
8th standard textbook.
Right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
you've learned about this. See, you already knew all the things. You just guys made me talk about it for no reason. Okay, so we made
Yeah, the nuclei from two different sheep were like combined and then she was made.
exactly. And then the mother in which she grew, okay, from like a small egg to a baby sheep, she looked nothing like that mother. She looked like her original egg donor mother, which shows another concept that if the egg comes from a particular individual, it retains the abilities and the characteristics of that egg. So you could be adopted. I'm not saying you're adopted, but you could be adopted, and you may not look like the parents you stay with, and you would look more like the parent who gave birth to you. Okay, who gave birth to you. That is how you could trace them back if you think you're adopted. Or if your parents tell you that, like, you trouble us so much, maybe you're not a child, you could actually find out if you are or you are not. Just saying that. So females can actually make more babies all by themselves, even if there are no males present. And that is, I guess, cool, but also weird. Like, who would do the lifting part, or who would do all the amazing joke cracking part if men are not around? So you need both balance. You need men, you need women, and parthenogenesis would not be very successful in human beings anyway. But yeah, if you could do it, you could do it. Pratik feels really sorry for men, but then again, hey, you guys treat women really bad. Okay, some of the men are really, really bad with women. So I guess the movie just goes to show that if you're going to be bad, you could be eliminated out of the world. Okay, so next time, be good to women or girls or human beings in general. Okay, that's the idea of the entire movie. So this is it that we are going to discuss for now. Asexual reproduction was the theme of the day, and I guess we've discussed everything there is about the asexual mode of reproduction. Next time we come back, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the sexual reproduction. We're going to see how you go from being a very tiny egg to being like whatever height you guys are. I'm 5, so you guys are probably 4, 4 and 8, 4, 7, or some of you could already be 6. I don't know, I've never seen you guys. So whatever height you are, you go from a very tiny cell to becoming this size, and how exactly that happens, and why it should happen at a particular age, and how it has to be controlled, how it can be made safer, how it can be made easier, is something that we are going to learn in our next class. Okay, so for the next class, what I need you to be ready with is all of this information in your head, and a pencil, some pencil colors, and a good eraser. Okay, because we are going to draw a lot of diagrams in our next class, and I would appreciate if you do those diagrams with me. Okay, so that is all that we are going to do, and I'm going to stop the recording for this particular thing.